Well, I think mostly I'm still in bonds, government bonds. Maybe I missed the market, but I saw a very intelligent man that you had on television, as you have some very bright people the other day, who said, that, which I agree with completely, the stock market doesn't really reflect the economy of a country. People found the opportunity of putting money in the stock market and probably done very well, and maybe the stock market will stay like it is. I'm looking at special situations. I have bought a few stocks and shares, but I believe that one has to be very cautious. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to wait and see.
We're back live at the Clinton Global Initiative, the annual meeting in New York City today. My next guest has been a major player on the global scene in European banking for more than 40 years, growing his investment bank from a 400 million pound business to one with more than 5 billion in assets under management. He joins me now to give me his take and share his thoughts on the financial reform and international banking standards. And he is Sir Evelyn De Rothschild. Evelyn, so nice to have you back on the program.
Well, I'm very pleased to be here, and kind of you to ask me.
And we're pleased to have you. So I thought we would begin on the idea of an international standard when it comes to the banking system. The financial reform being talked about right now. What's your take on it? Do you think this is necessary to look at things globally? How would you parse it out?
Oh, I think we've made a step forward, but we've got a long way to go. I think, we went through a financial debacle of serious proportions. And now one's got to think very carefully of how it will affect globally to work our way along so that it shouldn't happen again. There'll always be bumps, and there'll always be difficult times. And I imagine one of the big discussions that will take place in Pittsburgh will be how we move forward on globally financial controls.
Things ought to move forward. Are you in favor of more power for a super regulator overseeing the system on a global basis? Are you in favor of merging of some of these agencies? How would you like to see things play out?
Well, I can't speak for this country. In England we have two regulators, really. We have the FSA, the Federal FSA, and then we have the Bank of England. I think central banks generally should play a big part. I think the important thing is whoever regulates has got to have supervisors under them. I mentioned this to you last time I spoke to you. I think it's very easy for the powers that be to say we need more regulation. But if you look back, why did it happen? Why did it happen? It happened because the supervisors didn't do their job properly. Not only in this country, but in my country and in other countries. So you've got to train good people to become good supervisors. You've got to treat them fairly. You've got to reward them. And you've got to find those people to understand completely what the regulations are.
Which is, of course, something that we've heard many times before. It's not necessarily needing more regulation, but needing the regulation to be put to work.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think, personally, it's very dangerous for these remarks to be made now about a centralized regulating system and that the Fed here in America should take over the whole thing and become the chief regulator. Isn't it better to think it out carefully and to give the confidence back? The confidence has got to come back not only for how you run the banks, but to the people who use the banks. I think a lot of people would be frightened further if they thought the regulators were not competent and not able to do their job.
Give me your sense of banking right now in the UK and throughout Europe. We hear conflicting signals. Recently, we did get positive GDP reports out of France and Germany, but others are questioning whether or not we should actually be reading too much into those reports. How do you see things in the economy right now in the UK?
Well, I think in the UK, the Prime Minister did a very active, quick role in getting our banks back together in the sense that we had to have, if you like, nationalization of two of the banks. Or really to merge them and then take them under control and make sure that RBS and Lloyds were run properly from their position. They had been caught out, if you like, and had been badly managed. That, of course, is one thing. The economy in England is still not moving forward. It is in difficult moments. The housing market is flat, although it will start to pick up hopefully next year. The retail market is going to be tested. Obviously, we're moving towards the period of the Christmas time, and that makes a difference, but there's still a lot of people in the retail market who are suffering and having a rough time. Continental Europe, France and Germany is supposed to be moving ahead, but I think some of their banks are still struggling. We don't have to even mention the problems of Switzerland, which are huge, and we all know the problem of regulation of the major banks in Switzerland and the effect it has on relations with the United States. And then you go to Eastern Europe, which still has a lot of problems, although the European Central Bank and the European Union has funded a great deal into places like Romania and the Baltic states. So there's a lot of problems. 27 countries. It's not easy to say that everything is moving as satisfactory, but I think it'll take at least 2 years to see an improvement. And of course the other problem, which we don't talk about enough, is the unemployment factor and the social effect of young people leaving school, leaving college. How do they find a job besides companies having to cut back on their existing employment?
And of course you've got the added uncertainty in the UK, certainly, of an election coming up in 2010. Gordon Brown versus David Cameron. Any thoughts on how that plays out?
Well, I'm not involved in politics, but I can tell you that usually in my country, every 10 years we have a change of government. But our system, if I can say, sitting here in the United States, I think is rather efficient, because it doesn't take very long and it doesn't cost as much, and we get on with it. We have to have an election by May, and we'll see what happens. It's obviously how big a parliamentary majority is won by the party concerned, and if the majority isn't too big, I would have thought it was a good idea, because then we won't have too many new laws. What we now need to consolidate what we have, work to improve what we're doing, and try and get out of this problem very quickly.
Just how rich and powerful is Lord Evelyn Rothschild? Historically, the Rothschild family wealth was hidden in underground vaults. The Rothschild's secret financial records were never audited and never accounted for. Their family commissioned biographies give the illusion that their family fortune has dwindled, but researchers estimate their wealth at close to $500 trillion, more than half the wealth of the entire world. Besides their many castles, palace mansions, wineries, racehorses, and exotic resorts, the Rothschilds bought Reuters in the 1800s. Reuters then bought the Associated Press, which selects and delivers the same news stories to the entire world, day after day. They have controlling interest in 3 major television networks and easily avoid media attention since they own it. Until recently, they owned and operated England's Royal Mint and continue to be the gold agent for the Bank of England, which they also direct. They control the LBMA, London Bullion Market Association, where 30 to 42 million ounces of gold worth over $11 billion are traded daily. The Rothschilds earn millions weekly just on transaction fees alone. They also fix the world price of gold on a daily basis and profit from its ups and downs. Over the centuries, the Rothschilds have amassed trillions of dollars worth of gold bullion in their subterranean vaults and have cornered the world's gold supply. They own controlling interest in the world's largest oil company, Royal Dutch Shell. They operate phony charities and offshore banking services where the wealth of the black nobility and the Vatican is hidden in secret accounts at Rothschild Swiss banks, trusts, and holding companies. Although Evelyn Rothschild looks like a harmless gray-haired old man, make no mistake about it. Ancestors have hand-picked presidents, crashed stock markets, bankrupted nations, orchestrated wars, and sponsored the mass murder and impoverishment of millions. The wealth hoarded by this one family alone could feed, clothe, and shelter every human being on earth. How did Evelyn Rothschild become the filthy rich Grand Vizier to Queen Elizabeth II and godfather of the black nobility? By birth, Evelyn Rothschild is the great-great-great-grandson of Mayer Rothschild and is passing the godfathership down to David de Rothschild.